There comes a moment in life when everything shifts in an instant. You may not see it coming, you may not feel it approaching, but suddenly the heavens open and the impossible becomes reality. God does not always move in predictable ways. He moves in divine, sudden, and extraordinary moments. One day you wake up carrying the weight of uncertainty, and by nightfall, doors you never imagined would open stand wide before you. You never realize what you've managed. This is how God operates. He moves suddenly, shifting destinies, rearranging circumstances, and breaking barriers in ways human minds cannot comprehend. Right now, you might feel stuck, tired, and weary, but I urge you, do not give up. Because when God moves suddenly, everything changes. Stay with me, because what I'm about to share will shake your faith into action. There is a moment in life when the hand of God reaches down and alters everything in a single divine motion. The struggles that have seemed unshakable, the prayers that have felt unanswered, the waiting that has tested your endurance, suddenly everything shifts. God does not operate on human time. He does not follow our schedules or fit into our expectations. When He moves in His divine timing. And when that time comes, nothing can stop Him. Look at the story of Joseph. He spent years in prison, falsely accused, forgotten by men, but never forgotten by God. In one day, he went from the prison to the palace. His suffering was long, but his breakthrough was sudden. That is the power of God's movement. It may seem delayed, but it is never denied. What He has prepared for you is bigger than you can comprehend. The enemy wants you to believe that your situation is permanent, that your suffering will last forever. But let me remind you of something. No storm lasts forever. The very nature of a storm is that it passes. And when God speaks into your situation, the storm must obey. Right now, you might be facing battles that feel overwhelming. You might be questioning if God has forgotten you. But what if I told you that you are standing at the edge of something greater than you have ever known? What if I told you that what you have been waiting for is about to be revealed? When the Israelites stood before the Red Sea, they were trapped. Behind them, Pharaoh's army was closing in, and before them was an impassable body of water. There was no escape. But in one moment, God moved. The sea parted and the impossible became possible. That is how God works. He does not need human logic, and He is not limited by circumstances. He is the God who makes a way where there is no way. Your Red Sea moment is coming. That situation that has seemed unmovable, that problem that has seemed impossible, God is about to part the waters for you. The miracle you need is not far away. It is already in motion. The breakthrough you have been praying for is closer than you realize. But here is the key. You must not give up before it happens. Too many people walk away right before their miracle. They let doubt creep in. They allow fear to take hold, and they stop believing right before the sudden move of God. Let me ask you, how many times have you been on the edge of something great, only to let fear convince you that it was impossible? How many times has God whispered to you that He is working, but because you didn't see immediate results, you lost hope? Faith is not about seeing. Faith is about believing even when nothing makes sense. Faith is standing firm even when the evidence around you says to quit. Faith is knowing that God is working behind the scenes, even when everything feels silent. There are moments in life when God is quiet. The season of silence is not a season of abandonment, it is a season of preparation. Jesus spent 30 years in preparation for 3 years of ministry. David was anointed as king, but spent years running from Saul before he sat on the throne. The silence of God is never without purpose. It is in those moments that He is aligning things, positioning people, and setting up the circumstances that will bring your breakthrough. Right now you may feel like nothing is happening, but I promise you something is happening. God is moving pieces that you cannot see. He is setting up opportunities that you have not yet recognized. He is working through people that you don't even know. And when the moment comes, when the divine appointment arrives, everything will change in an instant. Think about the woman with the issue of blood. For 12 years she suffered. For 12 years she tried everything and nothing worked. But in one moment, when she reached out and touched the hem of Jesus' garment, everything changed. Her healing did not take years, it took seconds. But had she given up on year 11, had she stopped believing one day too soon, she would have missed her miracle. This is why you must hold on. This is why you must not lose faith. Because you do not know how close you are to your moment. You do not know how near your breakthrough is. What you see as delay, God sees as preparation. What you see as struggle, God sees as refining. What you see as waiting, God sees as building. There is a spiritual shift happening right now. You may not feel it yet, but in the heavens, things are moving. The prayers you have prayed, the tears you have cried, the battles you have fought, none of them have been in vain. God has seen every sacrifice, every sleepless night, every moment of faith when you could have given up but chose to stand firm. And because of that, He is about to do something unexpected, something sudden, something so great that it will leave you in awe. When God moves suddenly, it is always for a purpose. He does not bring change without meaning. He does not open doors without intention. When He shifts things, it is always to align you with His greater plan. This is why you cannot fight to hold on to the past. Some of you are praying for God to move, but you are also holding on to the very things He is trying to remove. You cannot step into your next season while clinging to the last one. You cannot receive new blessings while holding on to old burdens. When God moves, you must be ready to move with Him. There is a divine acceleration happening. Where you once struggled, you will now walk in favor. Where you once fought, you will now see victory. Where doors were once closed, they will now open. But you must be willing to step forward. The Israelites had to step into the Red Sea before it parted. The woman had to reach out before she was healed. Peter had to step out of the boat before he walked on water. The move of God requires action. What is God asking you to do in this season? What is He whispering to your heart? Some of you have been feeling a stirring, an uneasiness, a holy discomfort. That is not coincidence. That is the Spirit of God preparing you for what is next. Do not ignore the prompting. Do not resist the shift. When God begins to move, you must move with Him. Because when He acts, everything changes. Your breakthrough is not just about you. What God is about to do in your life is bigger than you. It will bless others. It will impact people beyond your imagination. The doors He is about to open are not just for your benefit. They are for His glory. When He moves, it is always to bring forth His greater plan. God is about to do something sudden. He is about to shift things in your favor. He is about to turn your mourning into joy, your struggle into victory, your delay into acceleration. But will you be ready? Will you hold on in faith? Will you trust Him even when you do not understand? Because when the moment comes, when the heavens open and the sudden move of God takes place, everything will change in an instant. And it is closer than you think. When God moves suddenly, it often defies human reasoning. It does not fit within the limitations of human logic, nor does it conform to our expectations. His ways are higher than our ways, and His thoughts are beyond our comprehension. That is why so many people miss what He is doing. They expect Him to move in one way, but He comes in a way they never imagined. The Pharisees expected the Messiah to arrive as a conquering king, but He came as a humble servant. They were so fixated on their own idea of deliverance that they rejected the very one sent to save them. That is why discernment is crucial. You must be spiritually alert, because when God moves, He rarely announces it beforehand. It happens in a moment, and only those with spiritual eyes will recognize it. Consider Elijah on Mount Carmel. The prophets of Baal cried out all day, cutting themselves, screaming and begging their God to answer them, but there was nothing. Elijah, on the other hand, called upon the God of Israel, and in a single moment fire fell from heaven. It did not take hours, it took seconds. The supernatural move of God does not operate on human effort. It happens by divine power. Some of you have been striving, pushing, and exhausting yourselves, trying to make things happen in your own strength. But when God moves, all of your human efforts pale in comparison. His power is unstoppable, and when He decides to act, nothing can stand in His way. Look at Paul and Silas in prison. They were locked up, chained, and surrounded by guards. There was no escape, but at midnight as they praised God, the earth shook, the prison doors flew open, and their chains fell off. It did not take a military plan. It did not require human intervention. God moved suddenly, and their captivity ended in an instant. That is the power of divine acceleration. Some of you have been in a season where you feel locked up. You have been bound by circumstances, trapped in situations that seem impossible to escape. But when your midnight hour comes, when God decides that it is time for your breakthrough, no force on earth or in hell can keep you bound. Chains will break, doors will open, and what was once impossible will suddenly be made possible. God moves suddenly, but he also moves strategically. When he shifted Joseph from the prison to the palace, it was not random, it was planned. Every step of Joseph's journey, his betrayal, his slavery, his false imprisonment, was leading him to his destiny. What looked like setbacks were actually setups. What seemed like delays were actually divine appointments. You may not understand why you have gone through the trials you have faced, but I assure you, God wastes nothing. Every pain, every disappointment, every betrayal has been shaping you, preparing you for the moment when everything changes. Some of you have been crying out for change, but are you ready for what comes with it? When God moves, it often brings discomfort before it brings promotion. When he called Moses to lead Israel out of Egypt, it did not happen with ease. Pharaoh resisted, the people doubted, the journey was difficult. But through it all, God was proving that his hand was upon them. Do not mistake opposition for abandonment. Just because you are facing resistance does not mean that God is not with you. In fact, the presence of great resistance is often an indication that a great breakthrough is near. The enemy does not fight what does not threaten him. If you have been experiencing intense battles, it is because something powerful is on the horizon. When God moves suddenly, he does not always give advance notice. That is why you must live in a state of readiness. The 5 wise virgins in the parable of Jesus were prepared when the bridegroom arrived, while the foolish ones were caught off guard. They had to run and try to find oil at the last minute, but by the time they returned, it was too late. That is a warning for us. You cannot wait until the moment arrives to get ready. You must be ready now. Some of you have been delaying your obedience, hesitating in your faith, waiting for a more convenient time to do what God has told you to do. But when he moves, there will be no time to prepare. The door will open suddenly, and only those who are ready will step through it. God is about to move in ways that will shake everything around you. When he moves, relationships will change. Some people who have been in your life will not be able to go where God is taking you. That is why he allows certain people to walk away. Stop trying to hold on to what he is removing. When he shifts your life, he also shifts the people in it. Some relationships are seasonal, and when that season ends, you must be willing to let go. Do not cry over what God has already closed. Do not grieve over doors he has shut. If he removed it, it is because it was not needed for where he is taking you. The sudden move of God often brings things you never expected. You may think you have your life planned out, but when God intervenes, he redirects your steps. Look at Saul on the road to Damascus. He was on his way to persecute Christians, but in a moment, a light from heaven blinded him, and his entire life changed. He went from a persecutor of the church to one of the greatest apostles in history. That is how God works. One encounter can shift everything. One moment in his presence can transform your destiny. Some of you have been waiting for years and you are wondering if it will ever happen. But remember this, when God moves, what would have taken 10 years can happen in a day. What seemed delayed for a lifetime can be restored in an instant. Time is not a limitation for God. He is not bound by human schedules. Sarah laughed when she was told she would have a child in her old age. But God's promise did not fail. Lazarus was dead for 4 days, but Jesus still raised him. It does not matter how long it has been or how impossible it looks. When God speaks, life comes forth. Faith is the key to stepping into the sudden move of God. You must believe even when you do not see. You must trust even when everything around you says it is impossible. Faith is what moves mountains. And right now, some of you are standing before mountains that seem immovable. But let me remind you, God does not need human logic to move a mountain. He does not need perfect conditions to perform a miracle. The same God who spoke the universe into existence with a word can speak into your situation and transform it in an instant. God is not done with you. No matter how long you have waited, no matter how difficult the road has been, no matter how many obstacles have stood in your way, your moment is coming. And when it comes, it will not be a slow progression. It will be a sudden shift. The doors will open so quickly that you will not have time to process it. One moment you will be struggling, and the next you will be walking in the very promise you have been praying for. That is the nature of divine acceleration. But will you be ready when it happens? Will you step into what God has for you, or will you let fear hold you back? When the Israelites reached the promised land, only Joshua and Caleb had the faith to enter. The rest doubted, and because of that, they missed out on what God had prepared for them. Do not let fear rob you of your promise. Do not let doubt keep you from stepping into what God has ordained. When He moves, you must move with Him. Right now, the atmosphere is shifting. Something is happening in the Spirit. The prayers you have been praying, the tears you have been crying, the faith you have been holding on to, it has not been in vain. Heaven has heard you, and the answer is closer than you think. You may not see it yet, but it is already in motion. The breakthrough is already on its way. The door is already opening. The miracle is already unfolding. Hold on. Do not give up now. You are at the threshold of something greater than you have ever known. What seemed impossible is about to be made possible. The delay is over. The waiting is coming to an end. God is moving. And when He moves, everything changes in an instant. When God moves, He moves beyond the limits of human expectation. The problem is too many people expect God to operate on their schedule. They expect Him to fit into their plans, to align with their personal desires. But God does not submit to human timing. He is sovereign. He is the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. His will is not controlled by earthly circumstances. That is why when He moves, it often takes people by surprise. It disrupts the ordinary. It shakes the foundations of everything that seems stable. It rearranges destinies and shifts the course of history. That is the power of a divine move. When it happens, nothing remains the same. Think about Noah. For years he built an ark when there was no sign of rain. The people around him mocked him. They could not understand why he was preparing for something that had never been seen before. They laughed at his faith, ridiculed his obedience, but then, one day, the skies opened and the rain began to fall. Suddenly, everything changed. Suddenly, the ones who doubted were the ones drowning. Suddenly, Noah's faith made sense. That is what happens when God moves. Those who doubted are left speechless. Those who mocked are silenced. Those who questioned are confronted with the undeniable reality of His power. There are people who have doubted you. They have looked at your faith and called it foolish. They have questioned your obedience, mocked your sacrifices, and laughed at your belief that God is about to do something in your life. But just like in the days of Noah, when the rain starts to fall, they will see that what you were preparing for was not a waste. What seemed impossible to them was already ordained by God. The season of waiting will make sense when the flood of blessings begins to pour. The doors that were once shut will open, and those who once ignored you will be left in awe. Some of you have been overlooked for too long. You have felt invisible, like no one sees the sacrifices you have made, the prayers you have prayed, the faith you have held on to. But when God moves, He does not just bring change, He brings recognition. When He called David, He did not choose the one who looked the part. He did not pick the tallest, the strongest, or the most qualified in the eyes of men. He chose the one who was overlooked, the one who was tending sheep while others were being considered for the throne, the one who was not even invited to the selection process. But when God's hand is on you, it does not matter who ignores you. It does not matter who overlooks you. It does not matter who does not believe in you. When He moves, He calls you out of obscurity and into purpose. Some of you have been waiting for your moment, but let me tell you, your time is coming. The rejection was part of the preparation. The delay was not a denial. The struggles were shaping you for what is about to happen. When God moves, the tables turn. The last become first. The forgotten become the chosen. The least qualified become the most anointed. That is how His kingdom operates. He does not follow human logic. He does not need the approval of people to establish his will. When he speaks, it is done. When he commands, it stands. When God moves, he does not just change circumstances, he changes people. Look at Gideon. He saw himself as weak, as insignificant, as unworthy of anything great. But God called him a mighty warrior before he ever won a battle. That is what happens when God moves. He speaks into your identity before you even see it in yourself. He calls you victorious before you step into victory. He calls you blessed before the blessing arrives. He calls you chosen before the evidence is visible. Some of you have been waiting for confirmation, waiting for a sign, waiting for something to prove that you are called, but God has already spoken it. You do not need human validation when you have divine confirmation. When he says you are anointed, you are anointed. When he says you are chosen, that is why you must walk in faith before you see the fulfillment. When Peter saw Jesus walking on the water, he stepped out of the boat before he knew if he could stand. He moved on the word of God alone. Some of you are waiting for proof before you step out, but God is waiting for your faith. The sudden move of God often requires a step before there is evidence. That is the test. Will you move in faith or will you wait for sight? Will you trust his word or will you wait for circumstances to align? If you wait for everything to be perfect, you will miss it. If you wait for human logic to agree, you will delay what God wants to do. When he moves, you must move with him. The enemy wants to keep you paralyzed by fear, by doubt, by hesitation. He wants you to question if you are really hearing from God. He wants you to focus on the risks instead of the promise. But fear has no place in the move of God. Fear is what kept the Israelites from entering the promised land. Fear is what made them see giants instead of victory. Fear is what turned a blessing into a burden in their eyes. Do not let fear rob you of what God is doing. Do not let doubt keep you from stepping into the breakthrough that is already in motion. When God moves, you must respond in faith. You must silence the voices of doubt, ignore the opinions of people, and hold on to what he has spoken. Some of you are on the edge of something life-changing, but the enemy is trying to distract you right before it happens. He is stirring up confusion, bringing opposition, making things look worse before they get better. But do not be deceived. This is not the time to retreat. This is not the time to give up. This is the moment to stand firm. The enemy would not be fighting you so hard if nothing was about to happen. The warfare is proof that something big is coming. The pressure is proof that the breakthrough is near. Think about Jesus before the resurrection. Before the greatest miracle in history, there was darkness. There was silence. There was a moment when it looked like everything had failed. But in that stillness, in that waiting, in that uncertainty, God was already at work. The resurrection was already set in motion. The stone was already waiting to be rolled away. Some of you are in that silent moment. It feels like nothing is happening, like the promise is dead, like hope is gone. But what you do not see is that behind the scenes, heaven is moving. What looked dead is about to rise. What seemed over is about to be restored. What appeared hopeless is about to be turned around. This is not the time to quit. This is not the time to let go of your faith. The sudden move of God does not come when you expect it. It comes when you least expect it. It comes in the midnight hour. It comes in the moment when everything seems lost. It comes when you are at the end of yourself, when you have no strength left, when you are out of options. That is when God shows up. That is when the impossible becomes possible. That is when the miraculous happens. Stay positioned, stay expectant, stay in faith. The move of God is not something you control, but it is something you prepare for. Just like the Israelites had to be ready to leave Egypt at a moment's notice, you must be ready to step into your breakthrough when the moment arrives. The waiting season is not wasted, it is preparation. Every tear, every battle, every moment of endurance has been leading to this. You are closer than you think. The moment is approaching. Heaven has already declared it. God has already spoken it. It is only a matter of time before it manifests. Stay ready, because when it happens, it will happen suddenly. When God moves, it is not a gradual shift, it is a divine interruption. It does not wait for human approval. It does not require permission. It does not ask if the timing is convenient. When God moves, He overturns everything that seemed permanent, everything that seemed unchangeable, everything that people thought was impossible. He speaks and suddenly dry bones begin to rise. He commands and instantly doors that were locked for years swing open. He moves and in a single moment everything that was against you is turned in your favor. That is the power of his sudden move. He does not need years to fix what is broken. He does not require a long process to bring restoration. In one move, in one moment, everything changes. The enemy has tried to convince you that your situation will never improve. He has whispered lies, telling you that you will always be struggling, that you will always be waiting, that you will always be stuck in the same place. But the devil is a liar. He wants you to believe that things will remain as they are. But the Spirit of the Lord is saying, prepare yourself, because I am moving in ways you cannot see. You may not have the evidence yet. You may not feel like anything is shifting, but that does not mean God is not working. Some of the most powerful moves of God begin in the unseen. Some of the greatest miracles start in the silence. Just because you do not see it yet does not mean it is not on the way. When the Israelites stood before the Red Sea, it looked like the enemy had won. It looked like they had no way out. Pharaoh's army was closing in behind them, and in front of them was nothing but water. But that was the moment God decided to move. In an instant, the sea parted. In a moment, what seemed like a dead end became a divine escape. That is how God moves. When it looks like there is no way, He makes a way. When it seems like you are trapped, He creates an opening that no one expected. When the enemy thinks he has you surrounded, God steps in and flips the situation in your favor. Some of you are at your Red Sea moment right now. You feel like there is no way forward and no way back. You feel like you are stuck, like there is no possible solution. But what you do not realize is that the move of God does not require human logic. It does not require natural possibilities. He specializes in the impossible. He specializes in making a way where there is none. When He moves, the very thing that seemed like an obstacle becomes the bridge to your breakthrough. The very thing that was blocking you becomes the very thing that delivers you. The sea that should have drowned them became the path that saved them. That is the kind of God you serve. He does not just remove obstacles. He transforms them into miracles. But here is the key. You must keep moving. When Moses stretched out his staff and the sea parted, the Israelites still had to walk forward. The path was open, but they had to step into it. The way was made, but they had to move by faith. That is where many people miss their breakthrough. They wait for everything to feel right before they step forward. They wait for confirmation from people, for every detail to make sense, for everything to be perfect before they obey. But faith does not wait for conditions to be perfect. Faith does not wait for human agreement. Faith moves when God says move. Faith steps forward even when fear is present. Faith trusts that if God has opened the way, then it is safe to walk through it. Some of you have been waiting too long. You have been hesitating, questioning, second-guessing whether it is really God speaking to you. But the time for hesitation is over. The time for doubt is over. The move of God does not wait for those who refuse to act. When He opens a door, it is your responsibility to walk through it. When He creates an opportunity, it is your responsibility to seize it. The Israelites could have stood at the edge of the Red Sea and debated whether it was safe to go in. They could have doubted, hesitated, or tried to figure it out in their minds. But the miracle was in their movement. Their deliverance was in their obedience. If they had stayed still, the enemy would have overtaken them. If they had refused to move, they would have missed their miracle. Some of you are at a crossroads right now. God has been speaking, but you have been hesitant. He has been showing you signs, but you have been afraid to step out. The move of God is happening, but you must align yourself with it. You must be willing to step into the unknown, to trust Him, even when you do not see the full picture. That is what faith is. It is stepping into what God has spoken before it has fully manifested. It is believing that if He has opened the way, then He will sustain you as you walk through it. When Peter walked on water, he did something no human had ever done before. The laws of nature said he should have sunk. Logic said it was impossible. But when Jesus called him, he stepped out of the boat. As long as his eyes were on Jesus, he walked on water. As long as his focus was on the Word, he did what no one thought was possible. But the moment he looked at the waves, the moment he focused on the storm instead of the Savior, he began to sink. That is a lesson for some of you. God has called you to step into something extraordinary, but if you keep looking at the problems instead of his promise, you will begin to sink. If you keep focusing on the obstacles instead of his word, you will start to doubt. The enemy wants you to be distracted by the storm, but God is saying, keep your eyes on me. Do not look at the waves. Do not listen to the voices of fear. Keep your focus on my promise, and you will walk in the miraculous. See, the sudden move of God requires focus. It requires faith. It requires endurance. The enemy will try to wear you down before your breakthrough arrives. He will try to make you tired, discouraged, weary, so that you give up right before the miracle manifests. But you must hold on. You must keep believing. You must keep standing. The enemy's attack is not proof that God is absent. It is proof that something big is about to happen. It is proof that the move of God is near. The greater the resistance, the greater the breakthrough. The heavier the warfare, the bigger the blessing. Look at Joseph. He went through betrayal, false accusations, imprisonment, but in one day everything changed. In one moment he went from being a prisoner to being second in command over all of Egypt. That is what happens when God moves. He does not take years to promote you. He does it in an instant. He does not need the approval of people. He does it by his own authority. Joseph's brothers thought they had destroyed him, but what they meant for evil, God turned for good. What looked like a setup for failure was actually a setup for elevation. Some of you have been in a season where it feels like everything has been against you. You have faced betrayal, rejection, closed doors, unfair situations. But God is saying, what the enemy meant for harm, I am turning for your good. He is setting you up for something greater. He is using what was meant to break you to build you. The very thing that was supposed to destroy you is becoming the thing that prepares you for elevation. That is why you cannot give up. That is why you cannot quit. You are closer than you think. Heaven is moving. Angels are being dispatched. Doors are being opened. Favor is being released. The shift is already in motion. It may not be visible yet, but it is happening. Stay in faith. Stay expectant. Stay ready, because when it happens, it will not be slow. It will not be gradual. It will not be something that takes years to unfold. It will be sudden. It will be supernatural. It will be undeniable. And when it happens, you will look back and realize that every tear, every struggle, every battle was leading to this very moment. The move of God is here. Do not miss it. There is a moment when God shifts everything in an instant. A moment where what was delayed is suddenly released. A moment where the weight you carried for years is suddenly lifted. A moment where the closed doors that frustrated you swing wide open without warning. And when that moment comes, it won't make sense to human reasoning. It won't align with the logic of the world. It won't be a slow progression. It will be divine and it will be sudden. You won't be able to explain how it happened. You won't have an answer for those who ask why things turned around so quickly, because it won't be your doing. It will be the hand of God. The same God who spoke and the earth was formed is speaking over your life right now. The same God who commanded the sun to shine and the stars to stay in place is commanding a shift in your situation. And when he speaks, everything obeys. Nature responds. Circumstances realign, barriers are removed, the impossible becomes possible. The laws of time and limitation bend to his word. He is not controlled by deadlines. He is not restrained by human expectations. When he says move, everything must move. When he says enough, everything that was fighting against you must cease. That is why you cannot afford to lose faith in this season. That is why you must hold on when things seem uncertain. Because what looks like a standstill is actually a setup for a supernatural shift. There was a woman who had been sick for 12 years. She spent everything she had trying to get better. She saw doctors, she sought advice, she did everything humanly possible to fix her situation. But nothing changed. In fact, it got worse. Then, one day she heard that Jesus was passing by, and something in her spirit told her, this is the moment. She didn't hesitate. She didn't wait for another opportunity. She didn't ask for permission. She pushed through the crowd. She pressed past the people, and with one touch, one simple touch of his garment, her suffering ended. 12 years of struggle were erased in an instant. 12 years of pain were healed in a moment. What no doctor could do, what no money could fix, Jesus did in a single second. Some of you have been dealing with something for years. You have tried everything. You have knocked on doors. You have prayed and fasted. You have waited and waited, and it seems like nothing is shifting. But do you know what God is saying? Get ready, because your moment is near. When He moves, years of delay are erased in an instant. When He moves, the pain you carried for so long is gone in a moment. He is the God of sudden healing, the God of sudden breakthroughs, the God of sudden turnarounds. And when He touches your situation, what was impossible for man becomes effortless for Him. Blind Bartimaeus sat by the roadside begging every day. People passed him by, treating him as if he were invisible. They were used to seeing him there. They were used to him being in the same condition. But when he heard that Jesus was passing by, something in his spirit told him, this is my time. He didn't stay silent. He didn't let the moment pass him by. He cried out with everything in him, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. The people around him tried to silence him. They told him to stop. They told him to be quiet. But he refused to let them steal his moment. He cried out even louder, and in that instant, Jesus stopped. When the move of God is near, distractions will come. People will tell you to settle. People will tell you that nothing will change. The enemy will try to convince you that this is just another ordinary season, that nothing significant is about to happen. But those who are sensitive to the Spirit know when the atmosphere is shifting. They know when something supernatural is about to break forth. And they refuse to stay silent. They refuse to let doubt rob them. They refuse to let people's opinions keep them from reaching out for what God is doing. Jesus told Bartimaeus, your faith has made you whole. His faith was not just in believing that Jesus could heal him. It was in refusing to let his moment pass. It was in recognizing that this was his opportunity and taking hold of it. And in one moment, his entire life changed. The same people who told him to be quiet had to watch him receive his miracle. The same crowd that ignored him saw him walking with vision. That is what happens when God moves. The people who doubted you will have to witness your breakthrough. The people who dismissed you will have to acknowledge what God has done in your life. Because when He lifts you, no one can bring you down. When He opens your eyes, no one can blind you again. There are moments in history where the sudden move of God changes the course of everything. Paul and Silas were locked in prison. They were in chains. They were in the deepest part of the jail. By all human reasoning, there was no way out. But at midnight, something happened. They didn't complain. They didn't give in to fear. They began to praise. And as they praised, heaven responded. The ground began to shake. The prison doors flew open. The chains fell off, not just from them, but from every prisoner around them. That is the power of a sudden move of God. It doesn't just free you. It shifts the entire atmosphere. It doesn't just open doors for you. It breaks chains for everyone connected to you. Some of you have been feeling like you are locked in a prison. You have been feeling like the walls are closing in. You have been feeling like there is no way out. But do you know what God is saying? Praise me before the breakthrough. Worship before the doors open. Rejoice before you see the miracle. Because when you praise in the middle of the problem, you are announcing to the enemy, I know my God is about to move. And when you praise in faith, heaven shakes the earth. Strongholds are broken. Chains fall off. The doors that the enemy locked are shattered in an instant. The battle you are facing is not because God has forgotten you. It is because you are on the verge of a supernatural shift. The pressure you feel is not because you are abandoned. It is because heaven is moving on your behalf. The enemy always fights the hardest right before a breakthrough. He always sends the most attacks when he knows God is about to elevate you. But what he doesn't realize is that his attack is pushing you closer to the moment where everything changes. Look at Job. Everything was taken from him. He lost his health, his wealth, his family. The enemy thought he had won. But what Job didn't realize was that God was setting him up for double. God was preparing to restore more than what was lost. And when the shift happened, when God moved, he received twice as much as he had before. His latter days were greater than his former. Some of you have been through loss. You have been through betrayal. You have been through hardship. But what the enemy stole, God is getting ready to restore. And when he restores, it won't be the same. It will be greater. It will be multiplied. It will be more than what you imagine. The tears you cried in the last season will be answered with joy in this season. The nights you spent wondering if things would ever change will be met with the sudden hand of God turning everything around. The Spirit of the Lord is saying, do not grow weary. Do not let go. Do not allow doubt to steal your faith. You are closer than you think. The moment of divine acceleration is upon you. The doors are about to open. The chains are about to break. The Red Sea is about to part. The walls of Jericho are about to fall. The thing that held you back for years is about to be removed in an instant. Stay in faith. Stay positioned. Stay ready. Because when God moves, it will not be small. It will not be ordinary. It will not be explainable. It will be supernatural. It will be undeniable. And it will be sudden. There comes a moment when God moves in ways beyond human understanding, and when he does, everything changes in an instant. The years of waiting, the struggles, the unanswered prayers, the delays, all of it will make sense when he steps in. He is a God of sudden breakthroughs, the God who turns the impossible into reality, the God who shifts circumstances in ways no one can predict. Just as he opened blind eyes, healed the sick, set prisoners free, and restored what was lost, he is about to do the same in your life. What you have been praying for, what you have been believing for, what you have been crying out for is not forgotten. Your faith has positioned you for this moment. The enemy may have tried to convince you otherwise, but his time is up. The chains are breaking, the walls are falling, the favor of God is about to manifest. So stay ready, stay expectant. Keep your heart in alignment with his will, because when his sudden move comes, you won't have time to prepare. It will happen before you even realize it, and when it does, all will know that it was the hand of God.